Welcome back, everybody, to another Ass Show, and the two S's spell spooky. They stand for spooky. Adam Steve Spooky Show.
Yes.
Steve, hello. How are you doing today?
I am doing very well, Adam. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. I just got back from the theme park today. That's why my hair is all wet. But I'm excited to talk about some movies and specifically a trailer for a movie that came out. What do you think?
So, this is one that I've been pretty excited about. We had a Super Mario movie way back in the day that was live action. I don't know how familiar you are with that one.
Oh, I have it on DVD.
Love it. I haven't seen it in so long. I rented it on VHS like all the time back when I was a kid because I just thought it was so ridiculous, but very entertaining at the same time. So, it's kind of cool that they're doing an animated movie, whether it is from Illumination, which they're kind of hit and miss with some movies, in my opinion. Like, I like some of the Despicable Me stuff, and they kind of just are all over the place. But anyway, I think they're gonna do some cool stuff. And now that this trailer came out, I know a lot of people are kind of mad that Chris Pratt's doing the Mario voice. Does it sound like Linda Belcher from Bob's Burgers? I love the person who did the little animation over the voice. It really does sound like that, but I don't think it was that bad, and I really dug the other cast, whether it was Jack Black as Bowser, Keegan-Michael Key as Toad, and we got to hear a little bit of Charlie Day doing the little Luigi scream, kind of like yelling voice, which I thought was fun. But
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on it?
Actually, I'm happy you brought up the old movie because I didn't even think about it. I enjoy it for the disaster piece that it is. Like, it's one of those movies where, like, for example, Batman and Robin is known as one of the worst comic book movies of all time. But I didn't grow up in the '90s, so when I watched the movie, I watched it knowing that I was going into the worst comic book movie ever. So I kind of enjoyed it for the cheese that it is. Same thing with Super Mario Bros. Because it's bad, but like Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo are fun in the movie. I think it's Dennis Hopper, Dennis
It is,
Hooper.
it is Hopper, yeah.
He is, oh man, just the look of his character is such a trip. But they're definitely due for a real life, uh, legitimate adaptation, not real life animated. But do you remember when in Wreck-It Ralph when Sonic shows up as a character for like 2 seconds
Very briefly, yeah.
and people freaked out about it?
Yeah.
People really enjoyed that stuff. So like if that's what Sonic got, and you saw how like big and popular the first two Sonic movies were, I'm really excited for the pop culture explosion that's going to come when this movie gets released because I think that it looks better than it should. Because on paper everyone thought it was going to look terrible, but like the animation's pretty fun. The voices are hit and miss, hit or miss. And the plot looks generally like what the movie should look like.
hmm Yeah, and I think they're gonna have some little subtle jokes like the penguins that are in there, the penguins that are in the old Super Mario 64 movie that everyone used to throw off the cliffs and stuff. They're gonna have a lot of references to your childhood, and it's gonna be a nostalgia trip for the older audiences. And I think they're gonna have enough in there for all the little cutesy animation stuff for kids too. So, like you were saying about all the Sonic stuff, I think the box office is probably gonna be huge for this. I know the controversy over Chris Pratt's kind of fun now, but that's just gonna drive the box office even more for people to go see it. So I'm excited for it for sure.
Do you think it will gross 100 million opening weekend?
And when is it coming out?
I think it's in March. Let me look it up while we do this. But I
Yeah.
definitely agree about the whole Bob's Burgers mom thing. I can't stand Chris Pratt's voice in this. He's awful.
Yeah, I hope they do some changes now that they know how people reacted to it. Maybe they go back in and change a couple of things because it does sound like he's kind of almost forcing a little bit of an Italian accent, which is fine, but maybe just do your own voice. I don't think the Italian forcing is really that necessary. I don't know, that's just me, but the other thing that I found was cool that I didn't hear the voice yet, but on the trailer, I guess, it does have the actual voice from the video games that did Mario for like since it's been happening, I guess.
Mhm.
He's actually doing a voice in the movie. I'm not sure what he's doing, if he's gonna do like a classic Mario type thing in the movie, I don't know, but either way, that's honestly the most exciting thing for me too that I saw in that trailer.
I just looked it up, by the way. April 7th.
Okay, with that being said, I think it's a possibility. With Mario being as big as it is, I think there's a good possibility it might hit that mark. It's going to be interesting to see because I don't know what's really coming out against it either. But with Mario being as powerful as it is, it has a chance.
Mhm. Mushroom Kingdom, here we come. Like,
It was so Linda Belcher. That's crazy.
yeah, I wasn't crazy about it. I think Charlie Day's fine. I love Jack Black, and honestly, I was surprised by this. Love Keegan Michael Key.
His voice was fun. I didn't even recognize it was him at first, but once I looked at the cast and everything and listened to it again, yeah, it was especially Jack Black, and I'm kind of excited to see what Donkey Kong is going to sound like too.
Oh yeah, no Donkey Kong, no Peach, and those are both characters that are casted in the movie, but Yoshi is not. And do you believe Yoshi will show up in this movie?
Yeah. I don't know if Yoshi will speak at all. That'll be the interesting thing. But I do think probably show up for sure.
Hello, hello.
Yeah,
That was my best. That was my best.
pretty good.
Other than that, though, I'm looking at the movie here now. I hate Illumination Entertainment. I think they're the worst. Can you think of a worse animation studio?
No, other than whoever does those Rock Dog movies and stuff like that. Maybe there might be the bottom tier, but Illumination, just from their pure annoyance in pop culture, in my opinion, kind of put them in lower. They kind of just put out the same movie quite often too. Like the animation for what it is looks cool, but their
Mhm.
stories really aren't that huge or anything brand new.
Mhm. So, what would you say is your favorite video game movie ever? And does this movie have a chance? Because Mario is a very important character to me. I played all the games growing up, DS, Game Boy, Wii, Switch, all that stuff. So I'm have a lot of emotional stake in this. How do you feel in that regard?
Same with you. GameCube is still one of my favorite video game systems of all time. Still play Mario stuff too. I do have my own Switch, and Mario has definitely been a staple throughout my entire life. So I definitely feel the same way, big attachment to it. Honestly, there aren't that many video game movies out there to really hold in high regard because honestly, Sonic is pretty high up there. I haven't watched Sonic 2 yet,
Mhm.
unfortunately, but the
Wait,
first one,
really?
yeah,
Wow, because that's a big one. I
I
thought you
know.
saw that.
I want to, and it's still on my Paramount Plus, and I want to get around to, but haven't, unfortunately. But the
Mhm.
first one is still really high up there for me. Trying to think of other stuff right offhand, but it's definitely has a huge chance of taking that number one spot. Because, like I said, even though that first movie, the live action Mario, is still really, really bad and really almost has nothing to do with the characters in the video games, I still think it's fun for what it is and how it kind of plays with certain things in the video games. But yeah, it definitely has a shot of taking that number one spot for me.
Yeah, my favorite video game movie is also the first Sonic movie. I think the second one is better in a lot of ways, but also the second one perpetuates problems I had in the first one. So I'm more mad about the second one having those problems because I'm like, you should have known, we told you, and we know that you hear us because you changed the way that Sonic looked. So
Yeah.
but no, definitely check it out because it was definitely a crowd pleaser, especially if you played the games, which I never played any Sonic games growing up.
I
So
played them a bit. I had it actually on my mom's computer back in the day, so
mhm.
that was really fun. And yeah, I want to see Jim Carrey's performance too because I absolutely love that guy for sure.
Oh yeah, he's the best part of the first one. But yeah, other than that though, I think my bold prediction is it flirts with 100 million, but I don't think the word of mouth is good enough to make it stay there.
Okay.
Or to make it cross that threshold. I think it will gross $1 billion worldwide, though,
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. That sounds like it's definitely
yeah,
the accurate choice.
because it's gonna have worldwide appeal. Obviously, who doesn't know and play Mario?
For sure, especially in like Japan and stuff like that. It'll blow up because they even have like their own little like theme parks and stuff over there for Mario already. So And they are building stuff here too. Are they building it in Universal? Is that where they're building Mario stuff right now?
Yeah, it's funny. My mom was talking about it today. Universal will have Epic Universe open before Magic Kingdom has the new Tron ride open, which they've been working. That was supposed to come out in 2019. But yeah, no, I can't wait for that. I've seen the videos from I think it's Japan or China, somewhere in Asia. They have it.
Japan, where they have like Mario Kart too over there, where you can like play and they like have you go out in a little bit of like a street area too with them. So they do a lot of really cool stuff over there, and Mario is definitely a huge part of the culture. So I can see this movie doing huge numbers across the world for sure.
So obviously, one of the most anticipated movies of next year. Is it going to be in your top five? How about that? Top five most anticipated next year.
Honestly, I think it might be. Just from especially this trailer and all the people that are in it, like Seth Rogen, Jack Black, all those names definitely have my ticket already bought. So it definitely has a shot of being at that top, definitely for anticipation.
Awesome, cool. That's pretty much all I have to say about this. I hate the way the Mario's face looks. I guess that's just because I hate Chris Pratt so much
But
in this.
apparently his ass is different too, which I didn't catch at first, but I kept seeing the memes all over the place.
Yeah, he's no ass, no
Oh,
ass.
taking Mario's ass away from us and his voice. Can't believe you guys.
Yeah, so how can we, a show about ass, sit here
Exactly.
and uphold this
We are
monstrosity?
we are praising our own failures.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, other than that, though, in the news world, one thing I just want to get out of the way real quick: Ezra Miller is coming back to finish the Flash movie. I think they're doing a reshoots
They
with
are.
him.
They are. They're getting some pickup stuff. Apparently, like whoever they're testing this movie with loves it. They're not having any problems. They don't care what Ezra Miller has been doing. He's been absolved by Warner Brothers. He had a meeting with them, I guess, and apologized and said that he's been going under very excruciating mental health issues and is back on track and is ready to finish this product and ready to finish this project and whatnot. So I'm hopeful. I think this movie is gonna be good, but I don't think we're gonna see anything else of the Flash after this stuff for sure. That's my take on this.
Mm-hmm.
Because they put so much money into this and they have Ben Affleck, Michael Keaton reprising Batman, and a bunch of other names already filmed. There was no way Warner Brothers was gonna dump this movie because they've already spent millions upon millions in it. So I think they're probably making the right call. It's gonna sell based on controversy alone, similar to how I think Don't Worry Darling kind of got their tickets sold. So it's gonna be interesting for sure. But what are your thoughts?
Mm-hmm. I think that's accurate. I'm very excited for it because what the hell, right? But that actually brings up a good question. So Shazam, Superman shows up in Shazam, right? Like as a bit, but like we don't see his face, right?
Hmm.
And Black Adam recently, like is going to come out. Excuse me. And The Rock came out and said that Black Adam will fight Superman in a movie. Like at some point, that is going to happen, which sounds like a really desperate thing to be like, "Hey, you gotta go see this movie so we can make the other one where he fights Superman." But do you think are they making another Wonder Woman movie?
I'd like them to. I'm one of the few people I think that enjoyed 1984 or whatever it's called.
Me too.
So I even honestly more than the first one. I don't know if that's blasphemous to say, but I
Me
think the
too.
second one's a lot more fun and the first one kind of drags a little bit. But
Mhm.
yeah, and honestly, I like The Rock so much. I don't know much about Black Adam, but none of the trailers have really sold me on really wanting to see Black Adam that much. I didn't know it was coming out like next week until I looked at tickets the other day.
Mhm.
So that just kind of shows you that like I'm excited. I'm definitely far more excited for The Flash than I am for almost anything DC has on the slate right now. So that's just me, but
Mhm. I mean, I'll see it. Pierce Brosnan punches my ticket in, but I don't have very high hopes for it at all. But my point that I'm trying to get across is yeah, I think you're right. I think this is it. I think they're done with him. Even if the movie's good and people like it, I think that they're because they've already established we don't want to continue with Zack Snyder's universe. Batman's going in its own direction, and it sounds like they're going to let Matt Reeves do whatever he wants to do. So I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Reeves' Batman kind of stays as its own thing, and the Flash kind of resets everything. And I don't know. I just hope they get their ducks in a row.
hmm And I'm excited because I don't. Andy Muschietti is the director of Flash. I'm correct with that.
Yeah, from it. Oh wait,
Yeah,
wait,
and
wait. I think I'm thinking of the guy from Shazam. Actually, I'll look it up. You go ahead.
no, I think you are correct. He is the guy from It, um, and Mama and all that. But I'm excited to see what he does because honestly, mostly anything I've seen him do is horror. So to see him take over in this big of a movie and kind of way out of that horror genre, I would assume with the Flashpoint being what it is. So it's interesting to see this guy take this movie and like you were saying, I feel like it's definitely gonna be a reset. They're probably I would assume Matt Reeves is probably just gonna stay in his own little sandbox and kind of just play with his own toys for now. And yeah, I definitely see them reshuffling. And I hope Gal Gadot kind of stays as Wonder Woman because I do like her. But if they juggle around some other people in the cast as well as the Flash, I'm very interested to see how that pans out.
Mhm. Yeah, by the way, David F. Sandberg is the one who did Shazam. That's the guy who did Lights Out and Annabelle Creation, which
Yeah.
I'm actually going to see Lights Out this month. I haven't seen it before. But yeah, no, I think that which actually this is a really good transition to our next thing because I think the way for DC to go forward is counter programming because Marvel's all about this cohesion. We're all in this big universe together, and look, this character shows up in this show and whatnot, and it's this machine. This movie has to come out, and that's why I'm so happy that Blade is getting delayed so that they can focus on it and make it better. Because if, like, for example, the Batman has more value than Doctor Strange and Thor Love and Thunder combined. So I think if they do, take it one step at a time, focus on one thing at a time, I think because they have the Joker thing going on, they have the Batman thing going on, and they have the remnants of the DCEU. So if they just try to like limit themselves, focus on one thing, I think that'll be good for them. Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, the thing they fumbled the hardest that seems like it would be the easiest is Superman. They need to figure out Superman because once they figure that out, that's like the moneymaker thing. They already have Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Batman's good. Matt Reeves is handling that shit and it's making so much money for them.
Mm-hmm.
But once they figure out, and I think that's where they need to put their eyes if they're going towards anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think Henry Cavill was great. I know you like Man of Steel too, right?
It's mixed.
Okay. I enjoy Man of Steel. Some parts for sure aren't great, but overall I enjoy it.
I give
I
it four
like
stars. I'm lying.
that's what I thought. I enjoy Henry Cavill as Bat or as Superman. If he continued in that role, I don't think he'll ever will, just because of everything that's been going on. And Batman v Superman, I think, took a lot out of everybody that was involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
But once they figure out who they want to take that lead, and I don't really have any idea who would really take over Superman at this moment, but once they figure that out, I think DC is going to be in a lot better shape.
Mm-hmm. And did you have anything to say about them pushing back Blade to work on it a little
Oh,
bit more with the director leaving the project?
with Blade, I am very excited that they are delaying it, like you were saying. I think they should work on it and make it great because Mahershala Ali is a perfect casting for Blade. That's what makes me so excited for it. I saw some rumors that maybe Sam Raimi would step into the director's chair for that one, which that excites me very much just because he's a horror boy and he would play with that so much.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone else jumps in there too, I'm excited either way. I want someone that can just have fun with Blade because Blade is something that can be very, very good in someone's hands that wants to actually make a vampire movie. That's the main thing. If you try to do too much superhero and whatnot and try to do too much MCU stuff with Blade, I think you would ruin it, especially when you start off with it. You got to make something really dark and kind of creepy. I don't know what they really did. I haven't seen the thing they did on Disney Plus or whatever with Marvel and like the Man Thing and stuff like that. I don't know how dark
Oh,
that really
Werewolf by
got.
Night.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like an ode to like old horror movie monsters and stuff. I'll probably touch on that a little bit at the end. Yeah.
So if they can play with stuff like that and they get somebody that can go genre wise to that kind of thing with Blade, I'm very excited about it.
Me too. I think it's quality over quantity, and this is a step in that direction. And I really appreciate them doing that instead of being like, we have a deadline and this movie needs to come out by this time so that we can make this amount of money so that the next one can come out and make this amount of money. And so I think there's a bright future there, especially with them taking their time. But yes, so speaking of Blade, starts with a B, we have two Bs to talk about today. Do we want to talk about bros or do we want to talk about blondes? My two favorite things.
Let's go for blondes first, because I have a lot more to say about that one, I think.
Oh
It's fresh
gosh.
on the brain too.
See, it's funny because I'm the opposite. I have a lot more to say about bros, but uh full disclosure, these are both 5-star movies from me. So I love both of them, but in very different ways. So why don't you talk about how you feel about Blonde first?
All right. Well, he tells you that Blonde is a 5-star movie. I'm here to tell you I rated it 2 stars. Did not really care for Blonde. And I'm honestly very curious of how this conversation is going to go due to your comment on my review for on Letterbox, because in my opinion, I think that this movie, and there are a lot of other opinions out there, but this is my own, and share your thoughts in the comments down below. We'd love to chat with you because, in my opinion, I think this person, mm, I said it in my review, but honestly, I might take it back a little bit. This person definitely knows who Marilyn Monroe is.
I don't think so.
I think they at least knew her name was, what her name was. They
They
read the
knew the
book.
picture. They knew about the dress thing.
They read the book that this was based off of, which I'll get more into that too.
Mm-hmm.
But gosh, is it not what I thought it was going to be? It's this movie is advertised as a love letter to Marilyn Monroe. Oh, it's a biography. All of this stuff happened. This is her real story. And holy shit, it is not. I don't know much about Marilyn Monroe, but I started to read a little bit. And this movie is just a fabrication of her life in the worst ways. It's making her she had a terrible life right from childhood, getting abused immediately by her mother. And whole, like, this movie, I don't know how you can rate it 5 stars. There's nothing enjoyable to watch in this movie between the horrible abuse, the borderline pornography that that is filmed in it, the horrible cinematography at times. Like
Okay.
when Joe DiMaggio, like, I loved the black and white and whatnot, and the sets look great. But when Joe DiMaggio gets pissed off about the nude pictures and like runs inside the house and they do the, like, it's almost like the camera's attached to him and it's like shaking with him running in there. That took me out so bad because I just started dying laughing. That was the
Mm-hmm.
only thing that really got me with the cinematography, but it just it is an art piece through and through. It tries so many different things. The pro life just nonsense stuff that, holy shit, I did not expect for a 3 hour long movie on Netflix. If you would have made me watch this in a theater, this is one movie that, like, I've never walked out of the theater. Almost did with movie 43. This one might have
Mm-hmm.
done it for me just from how graphic, but then just how boring it got. That's my rant. Go ahead.
So I agree with everything that you said, except for the cinematography. This movie looks gorgeous. Um, it is the most pretentious, like artsy fartsy, up its own ass. I mean, I knew right from the jump when Andrew Dominic came out and was like, "This is going to be one of the 10 greatest movies of all time." I was like, "Boom!" Like you could have given it 5 stars to me right from there. Like I was like, "Yes, please!" Like the like Mamba mentality of like, "I am the best, and this is the best movie." Um, so her performance is fantastic,
I will
right?
give you that. Yes. Her
Mm-hmm.
voice definitely, and it's not her fault. She's Cuban by from where she's from and everything, and the Cuban accent definitely pops in sometimes, at least what I was hearing. So
Mm-hmm.
it did a couple times, but the makeup they did on her, phenomenal. She looks very, very much like Marilyn Monroe. So
Mm-hmm.
all of that, yeah, Anna was fantastic. I will give you that 1,000,000%.
I don't think she was thick enough. My mom talked to me about this too. She brought it up to me. She was like, "She's too skinny, way too skinny."
It's
But
fair.
it's fine. That's not something that really bothers me. This movie is utterly depressing through and through. 3 straight hours of depressing like crap, and it just keeps hitting her. Like life just keeps punching at her. And you're right. Oh, it's NC-17. There's so much nudity, so much sex throughout. It's insane. And yeah, my main point that I'm gonna get to here is it's a disaster piece through and through. The fact that someone took a movie, was like, this is a fictionalized version of the events about this woman, but plays it off like it's real. I mean, you see all the stuff from history that you know about, and the characters show up. They don't have the names, because I know you just said Joe DiMaggio, but if you look in the thing, like the cast list, it says that his character, I'm pretty sure it just says ball player or something like that.
I was about to say, if you were about to say daddy, I was about to freak out.
Oh, ex-athlete. Oh, she says daddy as much as Leonardo DiCaprio says old sport in the Great Gatsby movie. Like,
For
it's
real.
obnoxious. And I just, yeah. Oh, and her talking. See, I was a little bit late. So I had people tell me about the fetus stuff, and I couldn't believe it. And what an amazingly terrible choice. And I enjoyed every single time that it happened, because I was like, that's a drinking game right there. Drink every time that she talks to or the fetus talks to her sometimes.
I
Blames her for.
is so crazy. I was
And
not
you're
expecting a pro-life agenda in the middle of a fucking Marilyn Monroe biopic. It was just insane.
very pro-life, extreme. Like, me and my mom completely disagreed, because she was like, see, I thought it was anti-abortion. I'm like, no, our pro-abortion. I was like, no, it's very anti-abortion. This I would love to hear how like the descendants of Marilyn Monroe feel about this movie, because it's such a I don't want to say a bastardization, but I just love how pretentious and stupid and big and dumb, and it's a great performance. At the end of the day, like, this might be my best female lead of the year. I think it looks beautiful. It's not about the plot, it's about the vibes.
Fair enough. If this movie, like, going into this movie, I was expecting this movie to, like, across the board probably get like Oscar nominations. I was like, it's a movie about Marilyn Monroe. People love old Hollywood. I was like, it's gonna be great. Anna, sure, give her a nomination for sure. The cinematography, I'm sure that right now, I think it's a lock that it'll get a nomination. Will it win? Who's to say at this point? But will it
Mhm.
sneak in there for sure? I think it'll definitely have a presence at the Oscars. But
By the way, I looked it up. It's ex-athlete. We also have someone playing the president. And then last, well, there's Bugs Bunny is in here as well. Several different people play Tony Curtis. And then Adrian Brody is the playwright.
such a weird fucking movie, man.
I know. I have a poster of Marilyn Monroe. I actually should have put that behind me for this. I'm looking at it right now. It's right over there. It's such a obnoxious, like, jerk of a movie, and I just love that it's so interesting to me, and everyone's takes are so completely right on. Like, I've seen all these threads, and they're so interesting because it makes me want to learn about the real history of Marilyn Monroe. But they're like threads like, oh, here's all the things that this movie got wrong, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. If you don't like this movie, if you think it's a 2 star, you're right. I talked to people about this movie, and I'm like, oh yeah, it was so good. Absolutely miserable.
Yeah, like I can never ever see myself watching this again unless it's like
Me
you were
neither.
if we're doing a drinking game, sure. If we're making fun of it and you're like just talking about how horrible it is and almost like piling on to someone who definitely didn't have like a perfect life for sure. And this almost feels like it's exploiting the things that are real in there, but also just piling on a bunch of fake shit just to make it feel extra, extra mean. So yeah, like I said that he almost felt like a fan of hers, but I recant that statement. I don't think he really liked her that much. And I'm interested to see if Anna is really a fan of hers as well, actually. Because like she portrays her likeness well, but to do all of these things knowingly, like if she knew that they were fake, then why? That's my biggest question, I guess, just out of curiosity.
So currently at the moment, because we just have about 2 minutes left on this movie before we go to break, um, it's currently I do my power rankings every year and throughout the year. And every time I see a movie I like, I update it. And it's currently at my number 9 spot on the year, right in front of Men, which is another movie that people didn't like, and right behind Turning Red. Uh, do you want to call my bluff right now and tell me that this is not going to be on my top 10 list at the end of the year? Because, hey, we still got 3 more months left of good movies and award season movies.
And you already saw Lyle Lyle Crocodile?
I did. And this could change, by the way. It's power rankings. It changes throughout the year, but currently it's at the 9.
Is Blonde gonna stick in there?
Yeah.
No. There's
It's,
no way it's in there. The fact that it's in there now is insane to me.
I don't think you know how much spite rules my life.
Oh, I definitely have a feeling. I have an inkling. I watch your rankings. The way you
uh,
just decimated my Final Destination movies that I adore so much, even though I rate them most 3 stars, but
oh,
rating them
we'll
all
get to
1 stars
those.
hurts me. But yeah,
Every single one. 1 star, 1 star, 1 star, 2 star, 1 star, 1 star, 1 star. But yeah, that's all I have to say about Blonde. Great performance. I think, okay, I believe Andrew Dominic made the exact movie that he wanted to make. Do you think that?
I do. I think this was definitely all his intention. Whether it was the nicest thing to do, that's to be said. Does he have artistic abilities? And am I curious to see his other movies now? For sure. I'd like to see what he does because he filmed stuff very interestingly. Playing with
Mm-hmm.
the aspect ratios and stuff I thought was kind of cool. So he definitely has an artistic mind, but maybe don't be so mean next time.
Yeah, a large element of so bad that it's good for me, but it's getting to that point where a lot of times in my life, so bad that it's good, I fool myself and I'm like, no, Cats is really great, I swear. But
It's
I
very
I
jellical of
do,
you.
yeah, I love the performance. I love the balls of the director. Like you can't say he doesn't have balls. And yeah, this is one of the most interesting movies to come out, like interesting biopics come out in a long time, like since Elvis. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
Since we just got done talking about Blonde, let's jump into Bros. Now, I've been a fan of Billy Eichner for a very long time. I like Billy on the Street started as a little YouTube thing, and then I think it made on like Fuse or something on TV, True TV at one point. He got it on TV. It was a silly internet show where he would interview people in the streets of New York and just ask them random questions about pop culture and just being his exuberant self. And he's always talked about wanting to be in Hollywood and making movies, and he finally got to do that with Bros. This is his movie that he wrote, and I want to say he said it was loosely based off of his life, which I think is awesome. And it is one of the first mainstream gay rom-coms that I think is absolutely hilarious. I went and saw it with my mom last Friday, and we were both cackling in that theater just at all the different jokes they were making. And it was just a very heartfelt love story, too, just about inclusion and self love and loving other people. And honestly, I rated it like a 4.5. It might even be a 5 out of 5. Like you said, you already rated it a 5 out of 5. I want to see it again just of how much I want to see if I missed any jokes and stuff, but it's one of the most heartfelt movies of the year and honestly one of the best comedies I've seen in theaters in a while for sure.
Mm-hmm. I was very high on this. I think your rating is much more accurate to the quality of the movie because I did give it a 5 because I was kind of in love. I think this is one of the 5 funniest movies of the year to me. Laughing through out loud throughout the entire movie. I think Billy Eichner is really good at playing Billy Eichner, which is all he needed to do.
Hmm.
Um, I really like Nicholas Stoller as a director, and I think he did a very good job here. It's one of his better movies. It's your typical Judd Apatow, mock autobiography. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
just like the Pete Davidson one or the Amy Schumer one, it's just another one of those things. But I feel like this brings a fresh perspective because yes, it's very actively about the LGBTQ community, and I think it's all the better for it. And I really wish, because obviously it's not done well at the box office, and my big thing with it is just focus on the quality of the movie. Like, yes, say that the Rotten Tomatoes score is good. Don't come out on opening weekend and be like, you're all homophobes because you didn't like go watch my movie. What do you think the box office was for Marry Me this February on Valentine's Day?
I have no idea.
Bad. It was bad because people don't see these anymore.
But
They just want to see big blockbuster superhero movies.
like comedies just aren't, or they're underappreciated in the theater, and it's very sad because
Mhm.
there are some that are just, for lack of a better word, underseen until they hit home video. That's where comedies fucking make their bread
Mhm.
all the time. That's where comedies go to live. Like I was actually just listening to a podcast with Cal Penn, who is Kumar from Harold and Kumar.
Oh, I
And
know.
he
I
even talked
know.
about, well, he even talked about it. He was like, this movie didn't do shit in the theaters. But then once it hit DVD and all the stoners came out and found it, the movie became a pop culture like hit overnight. And it's still like considered one of the best stoner comedies of all time. So comedies like this, unfortunately, don't get seen in the box office, even though if you're going to see one, Bros is the one to see. Personally, like you were saying with the director, I love Forgetting Sarah Marshall. It's one of my favorite comedies of all time, and he also directed that. So I already had a little bit of that expectation going in, but it's still just so much fun. And while yes, it is a gay love story, it's first and foremost a rom-com. It hits all of those rom-com beats while not being stale like a lot of rom-coms are. There's a lot of just funny moments that you don't expect, and because a lot of people that may not be gay that are going to see this movie are going to see some things that they're not expecting, and they're going to hear some jokes that they're not used to hearing. And if you don't hang out with gay people a lot, you don't hear these certain things that they say to each other and how they act towards one another, whether it's like the trans, bisexual, all the different people going back and forth in the gay history museum. That shit was hilarious. There are so
Mhm.
many moments in this movie that just have you cackling, but then also just have you like wanting to just hug the person next to you because it's just so cute and so loving. So it's a
Mhm.
heartfelt movie of the year for sure. And honestly, I could see it creeping into right around my top 10 area. I don't know if it'll crack the top 10, but right now it's definitely up in that area of one of my favorites of the year.
Really? How many five-star movies do you have on the year?
I'd have to look real quick, but there aren't a whole ton. I don't
One
even
thing
think.
that I really
Go ahead.
while you're looking at that up, one thing I really appreciate about this movie is how relatable that it was. I identify very much so with Billy. I'm straight, so obviously I didn't relate in that regard, but like personality wise and who I am in my relationship with my significant other, I definitely related a lot to Billy's personality because I'm very stubborn, hard opinions, obnoxious, animated, passionate. And I really saw myself a lot in Billy. And it's funny, I remember when I was in high school, the movie Love, Simon was coming out. Did you ever see that?
I did. It took me a while to actually see it. I didn't see it till last year, I want to say. And I want to
Hmm.
say it's probably because of what you're about to say as well.
Hmm. Well, it's funny because, the first big, studio gay rom-com, like pat us on the back, everybody. Like, I don't know, as someone who watches like a lot of, movies, and you should know this as well, like we've had a lot of great LGBTQ content in the last decade, specifically, even the last
Very
five
much.
years.
Yeah.
So for them to be like, here you go, we did it, is just kind of funny. But Love Simon, so that, I mean, I guess it's not a rom com; it's a coming of age, comedy, whatever.
It's
But
it definitely plays that line of rom-com as well, I would say.
no, I agree. I'm just calling them out on their bullshit, but whatever. Like, sure, first gay rom com, go get butts and seats. But I remember back then, I was like, yeah, I'm excited about this movie, and they're like, my friends, some of my more douchier guy friends were like, you want to see that movie? And I'm like, yeah. Like, and it's like I don't have to be gay to relate to gay people. You know what I mean? I was also in high school once and had crushes on people and like had internal struggles with that and those crushes coming to light and being blackmailed by people and being insecure about who I am and about what I like and it's just very dismissive of people to like disregard this because they're like, oh well, it doesn't apply to me, because I'm not gay. Like they say at the beginning of the movie, oh, we want you to write the type of movie that guys would take their girlfriends to go see. And this is.
Absolutely. I mean, this is through and through. Like, you don't have to be gay to enjoy this movie. Like I said, I took my mom to go see it. Certainly not a gay woman. She has 3 children.
That
When we were
you
leaving,
know of.
exactly, yeah. When we left the theater, she was telling me how much she loved this movie and how much she related to some of the love story moments in it. And there's still very much relatable moments that people go through dating, especially if you're still dating in modern technology, and whether it's a Grinder app or a Tinder app. All these different things are very much relatable to any sexuality. And it's just straight up. If you want to go see a comedy, Love Simon being that too. Love Simon, unfortunately, at that time too, I actually had a screening ticket to go see it. Wasn't able to make it for weather reasons, but and all of the press that came out about it being a gay movie, blah blah blah, and people were just
Gay.
bashing it. And I was even hearing stuff about bros like that a little bit too, of people literally like in the theaters just being like, "Oh, I don't want to go see that movie," blah blah blah. And there's still that kind of rhetoric, unfortunately, that people have in their minds. But if you just open up and realize that other people, whether they're gay, straight, trans, bisexual, whatever, they're people and they have relatable stories and they're very similar people. So say gay, Florida. Do it. It's a good thing.
Did you hear about the Regal mystery movie that they did a couple weeks ago?
I heard about it. I don't know what it was though.
Yeah, so it's a brand new movie that was coming out, and they put it out in theaters. It's a mystery movie, and you pay $5 and you can see a brand new movie early, right? And I really thought it was going to be Bros because I was like, that makes sense because I bet a lot of people won't go see Bros because they, are homophobic. And I
Mhm.
think if you get people to see that movie, and not maybe not the homophobic people, they'll probably still hate it, right? But someone who wouldn't normally go out and like seek out a gay rom com, they I guess it's a gay rom com. And then they sat through it and it's a really good movie. Like it's really funny. There's a lot of real genuine emotion. Like I didn't cry, but I had goosebumps there towards the end when he's doing the big romantic gesture. I'm sure that's not a spoiler to say that the rom com ends with a big romantic gesture.
Nope.
But yeah, like I thought that would be a good way to introduce some people who wouldn't have normally seen a movie like this. It turned out to be the greatest beer run ever. The Zac Efron Apple TV one.
Yeah, haven't watched it yet, but I'm aware of it.
But yeah, I don't know. I think that this movie wasn't going to do great at the box office anyways, and I think the biggest decider will be this upcoming 2 weeks from now when Ticket to Paradise comes out. Because if that is a huge success, you could sit here and be like, well, obviously George Clooney and Julia Roberts are much more box office, hits than Billy Eichner. They have more cachet, but it'll be kind of
Yeah.
fishy. You know what I mean?
The only thing that has for it really is it brings out the olds, and the olds do spend their money a little bit more than the youngs sometimes.
Well, they
So
have it.
that's the only thing, especially when it comes to these. Because wasn't there was it books? There was a book club movie or something a few years ago that
Oh,
like
the
got
book
really
club.
big. That's why I
Hmm.
feel like something like this movie coming out, I feel like could be a big hit like that, unfortunately. But yeah, I wish the box office was better for Bros, but I think it's gonna have a good life on VOD and maybe even on
Peacock.
cable. Peacock for sure. Just like people that this might randomly might turn it on. If it gets to cable, I feel like a lot of those older audiences that might not give it a chance might accidentally flip it on one day and find just a really lovely movie, hopefully. So there's
Hmm.
always that hope.
Well, a lot of my job is asking people if they would show them a trailer and be like, "Hey, would you go to the theater to go see this?" And a lot of times people are like, "Oh, well, I reserve the theater for my big blockbuster type stuff where I need to be the big screen experience, and the smaller movies I'm more okay watching on streaming." So I do think that this will have a better life on streaming. But yeah, I thought it was really, really, really funny. Definitely one of the top 5 funniest movies of the year. I'm a fan of rom-coms. I think it's Judd Apatow's best in a while, and I gave it a 5 out of 5. I'm probably too high on it, but um, I loved it. I really loved the experience of seeing this movie.
Absolutely agree.
Hmm. Anything else, or did you say your rating?
Yeah. So I did rate it. I think I rated it a 4, just make sure again.
Oh yeah, you were checking to see how many 5-star movies you had
Yeah.
this year.
And
My
I was
bad.
looking through it and honestly, it's still under 10, but I want to say it's over 5.
That was
Boom,
so
boom,
funny when you called
boom.
me out a few weeks ago, and you're like, "I thought I was the one that likes everything," and I was like, "Damn it,
I
he's
I started
right."
I started handing out a couple more 5s right after that, but I pulled back.
Oh,
No, yeah,
I
I
have a
think
few, like 13 this year, I think.
yeah, I gave Bros a 4. Oh, Mr. Harrigan's Phone. I just want to touch on it for a second. I don't know if you really know about it. It's a Netflix original that just came
Sell me
out.
on it.
I'm not going to. So it has Jaden Martell, who was one of the kids from the It movie. He played Bill in It, and
Um,
Donald Sutherland. Both have really fantastic performances in this movie. But boy, is it just a very twisted, like fumble of a movie. It kind of just it becomes almost like a coming of age type story for Jaden for a second, but then it gets like supernatural because the whole thing, the whole plot of it, I'll just read a little blip right here. The old man hires Jaden Martell's character as like a very like 10-year-old boy, maybe very young, to come and help read to him because his sight's like getting bad or something like that, and he just wants someone to read to him. He sees him read like a thing at church and hires him. And one day they like start bonding and everything, and he like gives him his iPhone one day because it's like it's set in 2003, so it's brand new technology at that point.
mhm.
And then one time he shows up at the old man's house and he's dead, but he still has the phone in his pocket or his phone in his hand, like actually trying to call the kid at the same time that the kid comes and finds him. And then he starts getting random texts from that old man's phone number and shit, and weird supernatural stuff starts happening. But it sounds cooler than it is. It's based off a Stephen King short story. And the bad part about it is it's a short story that they tried to extend out to 2 hours, and that's where its major
Two
downfall is.
hours.
Yeah, I want to say if it's not 2 hours, it's pushing the limit. 105 minutes, so not quite 2 hours, but close enough to where it's too long. If it was closer to 90 minutes, we'd have a better movie on our hands. But I feel like they tried to make two movies into one thing, and it just feels very unbalanced. I gave it 2 stars, I think, and yeah,
It sounds very reminiscent of the Black Phone.
it's very reminiscent of the Black Phone. It does not go anywhere near as horror or violent as the Black Phone, but it does have very, very similar vibes. It's almost like
John Lee Hancock directed it.
he did. It's very much just kind of a, even though it's set in 2003, it almost feels like a 90s almost like thriller,
I'll probably check it out. Yeah,
coming
see,
of
it's
age type.
funny. I was like, "Sell me on it." You're like, "No," and you
I figured
did.
it would. I think I sold it a little bit better than the movie is itself, but I'm curious. My mom actually like is the one who told me about it, and she really enjoyed it. So curious to hear your thoughts when you do get around to it. But that's one of my very recent watches.
God, whenever I see Bill, the first thing I think of is I recently watched the Book of Henry for the first time. Which, if you haven't, it's a trip.
Have not, but I've heard it's pretty crazy.
Oh, actually, speaking of the Book of Henry, I don't know if you noticed,
Ah,
repping, repping the Jurassic World shirt because I didn't log this because I didn't finish it, but watched half of the extended edition of Jurassic World Dominion, and the opening scene where it's just the thing getting the blood from the dinosaurs, just showing dinosaurs back in the day, and then the movie
sure.
theater thing scene. That's all on YouTube, so we've seen that before. And there's some scenes here and there where I'm like, oh yeah, that's new, where they like um, the one dinosaur that Chris Pratt wrangles gets taken by these poacher type guys, and that was a cool scene, I guess. But yeah, I just had a hard time getting through it because it's just a longer version of a bad movie. It's not different, like the director. It's not a director's cut. It really is an extended edition whereas like Fantastic Four, the extended edition, I think like adds a lot of much needed stuff. I think this just makes a more over bloated movie.
Yeah, it's extending a movie that's already far too long.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have, honestly, my major complaint with it, I don't know if I said it on here before, but the legacy cast, you cut them out of this movie, it's a much better movie. It's a much thinner. and it's much more cohesive and to the point. You don't
Mhm.
really need, like, they're fun to see. I get that. And did they probably sell a majority of the tickets? Probably, because I don't think people liked Fallen Kingdom, especially not as much as I did.
I like
But
Fallen Kingdom.
you like it more now, but when we saw it in theaters, you
Yeah.
certainly did not. I was the only one that did. But yeah, I don't think I'll ever, if I watch the extended edition, I would be pretty surprised and have to be pretty bored, I think, to do that. But
Mhm.
I'd like to at least, maybe I'll just look up the scenes from it on YouTube, maybe, and just see it that way.
But if you cut out the original cast, then you have to cut out the locusts. And if you cut out the locusts, then what are we even doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that.
But yeah, that's all I had about that one. Yeah, we'll kind of back and forth here. What's a movie you watched that you want to bring up?
Well, actually, I want to chat with you since you've been getting into, we actually watched a few of them way back in the day too, but you've recently jumped back into the Nightmare on Elm Street
Mhm.
series.
Did we ever watch the third one together?
I think we did. I'd be shocked if we did. I know we at least watched the first two. I remember that
Yes, I
definitely.
know that for sure. I think I
Maybe
fell asleep during the third one because this is my first viewing of the third one.
if I recall correctly, I don't think we finished the third one for some odd reason, whether we just started doing something else. But yeah, we
Mhm.
definitely started it, and then I don't think we got like halfway into it and then shut it off.
Well, yeah, so obviously I've seen the first movie like maybe close to half a dozen times, and then I've seen the second movie multiple times now, which I gave that one a 2 star. And the first one, it has flaws, but I'm giving it a 5 star movie. I love the first Nightmare on Elm Street. That just the bathtub, shot is instantly iconic and absolutely terrifying. But I found myself, I don't know if you saw my tweet about the franchise. I find myself loving every single, maybe not loving every single movie, but I love this franchise. It's so consistently good. Like three, I'm honestly convinced to go up to a 4 star instead of a 3 star because the next few, like 4, 5, and I'm halfway through 6 right now. These are all enjoyable 3 star movies,
Yes.
and so consistently good, and especially after the Final Destination franchise, where every single movie was exactly the same and equally as shit as the last one. It's just so refreshing, not only to see a franchise that's so much more consistently good, but like the plots are different, and that's insane. And especially since Final Destination, you have a villain. You don't have any villain. You have the concept of death that we're dealing with, right? And it's haunting them. But even if you compare Freddy Krueger to Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers, the original 1978 Halloween is in my Mount Rushmore of favorite horror movies of all time. But the performance of Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger, head and shoulder. I bet you can't name an actor who played Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees ever.
I don't think you should ask me that question because I know all of those actually, like a lot of
I
them.
do. Well,
Yeah.
your common horror fan doesn't because it's
Yeah.
not about the performance. They wear a mask. They're very
No,
stoic and
that is the best thing about the Nightmare series, which by the way, I did take a screenshot of your tweet just so I could have it and make sure I could bring it up later. But yes, the best thing about the Nightmare on Elm Street series is Freddy Krueger and Robert Englund, other than that remake that we will refuse to talk about. I do not want to talk about it here at all, ever. But he's in all of those movies. He's consistently Freddy Krueger. Whether he does get a little bit goofier in the later sequels rather than more
good.
darker and more brooding in the first movie, I personally, like you are saying, I enjoy all of those movies. Are they perfect? No. But are the kills extremely creative and do the stories still have a lot of fun, even how ridiculous they get? Absolutely. I
Mhm.
watch these movies religiously, practically annually at this point. I rewatch the whole series, even the stuff I don't like. Freddy's Dead being my least favorite of the series by a large margin.
That's the sixth one. I'm on that one. No,
Yeah, that one
that's
I'm
Breckin Meyer stoned and watching TV.
it is it is so goofy and just plays with the lore so much with Freddy that
So
I
much
just
lore.
I personally it just kind of ruins a lot of things for me, but Wes Craven's New Nightmare kind of plays around with it again, so I look
I'm
forward to you
excited for
seeing
that.
all of those. But yeah, this whole series is a blast. Can't wait to hear what you think about the rest of the movies. But I even have Never Sleep Again, which is I want to say even like a 3 or 4 hour documentary that's literally goes into each movie and like talks about the behind the scenes and interviews the cast and everything. And I've been watching that along with watching the movies again, and both things together are just a so much, just a fun time in general. And I actually
Mhm.
have one for Crystal Lake Memories as well, which is a Friday the 13th one where you can watch all of those and they go into each movie. I think it's the same people that made both documentaries. Both really cool stuff. And yeah, those series are just a blast to watch, especially for spooky season.
Yeah, no, I if you had to ask me right now, one, three, four, five. I'm halfway through six. Two. The fifth one, is just like Blonde, and it's weirdly about abortions for some reason. Um, like that one gets really dramatic for no reason, but I'm great. Like I'm loving it, you know?
I think it definitely came out around a time where I want to say like abortions and whatnot were definitely a hot topic, similar to today.
Mm.
So I think that's why a lot of that has all that meaning. But yeah, my ranking, honestly, three and one kind of bounce back a lot back and forth just because I
Wow.
love all of the characters in three so much and how they brought back Nancy, and a lot of the kills I think are just so much fun. Like the ones in the first movie are iconic, but the ones in three are like just so larger scale and out there because the first movie is a low budget horror movie. They had like no money to play with really. So that's where the scales go back and forth, but the first one is just the top. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, so that's always has to stay at the top. I actually got to see it in theaters when I was in Florida. That was one of my favorite theatrical experiences. So
Mhm.
I adore this series. I'm just really happy that you're watching it now too.
Yeah, because I've had that collection. I don't have it on me at the moment. I have a bunch of other horror movies on me at the moment, including look at this crazy ass oh crap, I guess you can't see it because my
It's
thing, but
Blumhouse though.
it's
I can,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh, there we go. Hi, you
yeah.
see it's like a Blumhouse collection. It's got the weird. Oh, I guess I have to watch the Purge movies next. But either that Underworld or Resident Evil. I'm gonna go through those next. But yeah, I've decided this month, unless it's a brand new movie, like a 2022 released movie, I every movie that I watch at home has to be a horror movie, and I'm having a great time with that. I'm mowing through these franchises. That's really all I had to say about Nightmare. It's my favorite horror franchise by far. Like I even like I love Saw, I love Insidious and stuff like that, and still no nothing holds a candle to how consistently fun. Like I feel
That
like the
did.
second one dives into camp, but third one finally masters it, and they just carry that on throughout the rest of the franchise.
Yeah, I like two a lot too, actually. Like it's fairly high up there for me. I didn't like it the first time I saw it, but the more I watch it, a lot of the different kills and stuff, and obviously, especially if you watch, there's a documentary that actually came out separate from the one I was just talking about, that's separately about just two, and about like the actor that played the main character and how he was gay at the time, but I think he might have still been like not fully out yet,
Hmm.
and just about the different like how the movie was written and how the movie was kind of made to almost gay by accident is kind of how they say it.
Oh, it's
So
gayer than Bros.
for real, it's like insane how gay it is and how they say
Mhm.
that they had no intentions behind it. So both I can't remember what it's called. It's on Shutter right now. So but this series in general, like you were saying, a ton of fun, so much creativity, and I had to ask you a question though. I know you're a big paranormal activity guy too. Does
Mhm.
this still Nightmare still goes above paranormal activity too?
Paranormal Activity is not very highly regarded by
Hey,
me.
I thought you enjoyed it a little bit more than the average person. I
I
enjoy
do
it.
because I have a box set of the first three movies, and then I have the collection of the next six, and then the new one just came out on Paramount Plus, so that's never gonna be on physical media. But I love those movies growing up, and I swore they were going somewhere with them. But no, the first one's great, and the third one's my favorite, and the second one's good too. But
You know what's funny? I
no.
think what is the one that was directed by Ariel Schulman or whatever, the one with like the Connect stuff in it.
Oh,
Honestly,
that Connect one was the fourth one, that's for sure.
that other than the stupid Connect stuff, that's one of my favorites in the series. I know everyone
Wow.
hates that movie, but
Mhm.
especially because it has like the cast in it, it's one of the best casts like in the entire series just because it has that girl from Freaky It has that guy that is in like sitcoms and stuff that it's like her boyfriend. Just those two alone kind of just elevate that movie to me where it's like this doesn't even feel like it should be in this series. And
Hmm.
I think it was written actually by Christopher Landon, I think is his name, the guy who actually directed Freaky and
Hmm.
did like Happy Death Day and all that kind of stuff. So that one just kind of holds a special place to me, but I don't know.
It's funny. My girlfriend just watched Dallas Buyers Club for the first time,
Have not seen
and
it.
oh, it's a great movie. But she was telling me about the plot, and I was like, I haven't thought about the plot of this movie in a decade. You know, if it comes up, all I talk about is the performances, and I have that same situation now where you're just talking to me about the plot of the fourth one, and I'm like,
Oh yeah,
besides besides the fact that it's about an Xbox, like I have no recollection of that movie. There's a blonde girl, I think.
yeah. Oh, there's like a part where like a knife is like up like above the ceiling and everything, and it drops down right in front of the dad's face, like on his computer. There's some very suspenseful moments that I really enjoy in that movie. Maybe you should
Hmm.
go back and watch that one. I don't
Maybe
know.
I
I
go maybe.
I like to go back and rewatch that series. I go back and just I watch terrible horror movies all the time. It's one of my
Hmm.
favorite things to do. I know you like watching a lot of different musicals and stuff. I know you love Cats, which I consider a terrible musical. So
Disaster piece.
maybe we just I like disaster pieces when it comes to horror, and you like them when it comes to musicals and
I,
just
I
large
I
budget
love
disaster
shitty
pieces.
horror. Shitty horror is great. Speaking of shitty
You have to
horror,
watch like bad VHS horror though. I gotta show you some bad horror.
oh, trust me, I'm the guy for the site that I write for. I always take the bad horror movies every week, the like straight to Walmart ones. But speaking of bad horror movies, because I know we don't have too much time left, can you tell me what I'm supposed to enjoy about the Final Destination franchise? Because I watched five of them and I don't get it.
Personally, I grew up with this series, and they were honestly some of my earliest exposures into horror. If I'm being honest, like Scream was the first movie that I think I really saw, but when it came to like crazy horror, like violent stuff, it was the Final Destination movies. And honestly, as a child especially, I was scared of a lot of shit. Like I did not like horror stuff back then. I was scared of everything. So seeing these movies and seeing these freak accidents happening to people, that's what really got me and kind of made me fall in love with them. The stories in these movies are ass. They're some of the worst written movies probably in horror because that's not what they were really going for. Their budget was poured into these kills. They
Mhm.
wanted you to just be freaked out, and later in the series, when digital technology took over, they got worse and worse, and the series definitely faltered because of it. In 3D shit, just don't get me started on the 3D stuff. Those are some of my worst things in the
Well,
whole
Saw did it
franchise.
too, you know.
Yeah, but yeah, I it's just about the kills for me. I think they're fun movies. They're not great. I don't think they're one-star movies, but I respect your opinion.
No, four is where it seemed like the budget went up, and I thought it was all the better for it, honestly. But it seems like the type of movie that's for like paranoid people who like think that they're always gonna die for no reason. I know there's
I
a word for
legit
it.
after was it 4 or 5 with the escalator thing where the girl's leg gets like pulled into the escalator.
Uh, it almost does because of shoelace
Yeah,
because
because
she
it's the
buys new
dream or whatever
shoes.
too.
Oh, I don't even remember four. I want to say
I want to
four.
say so, but regardless, I
Yeah,
legitimately because I was still younger at the time, stopped riding escalators. It just freaked my shit out. And like same thing with log trucks. When I see a log truck after the second movie, I think about that movie.
yeah, but that's just good sense, you know.
Tanning beds from the third movie. Cannot get it out of there. It's just like I don't want to do that shit because I saw it
Mhm.
and like it definitely has an effect. And I think that happened to a lot of other people that are closer to my age. I, because I grew up with them, I think they had more of an impact on me too. I saw them at such a young age, and the image is just in my brain.
Mhm.
So maybe that's it for me. But yeah, I it's just a fun thing for me to go back and watch every now and then.
Here's my compliment because you know you said oh Adam hates this. Okay, so they're all one-star movies, not zero-star movies. None
They're
of these
not
offended me.
they're not half stars. I give you that's
Oh
fine.
yeah, I only put half star on a letterbox so that because I can't put zero. Uh, but yeah, no, because I don't do half stars. if I did, Smile would be a 2.5 instead of a 2. But I digress. They're all 1-star movies. None of them offended me, even though they should, because the plot, oh, is terrible. Every single movie is exactly the same plot, like not even trying to deviate, and play with your expectations whatsoever. Like, exactly when the dream sequence starts,
It's the
and
same thing with
it's
Saw.
I
Like honestly,
no, Saw
especially the
pulls its
sequel Saw
crazy twists
sequels.
out of their ass, and I appreciate that at least.
With the insurance movie, that's the one that I actually think
The
when
sixth
they
one,
that's the one that actually is one of the better ones later in the series for me
yeah.
because they actually tried something. When it
Mm-hmm.
comes to like especially like 4 and 5 in there, could not care less to watch those ones. But
Mm-hmm.
6, cool. They actually tried something again. 7, they tried some
3D.
things. They did not work out as well, but they
Mm-hmm.
tried. And I enjoy some things in that movie, but I like when these horror movies try to shoot for something at times, even if it's not always the greatest. But like you were saying, when they continue on that bland path, like Final Destination is very guilty of, it can get pretty shitty. But they're
Especially when
making
you
a
watch them in a row.
that is true. But they're making a new one, so like I'm hopeful that they're gonna do some cool stuff. It's new people that are fans of the old movies, and apparently they did like some like stunt thing to get this like in a meeting or something like that. They like did some random shit. I can't remember what they did, but they did something to get their attention, and they actually got hired on the spot because of it. I think I saw something. Can't remember the
Mm-hmm.
specifics. I'll pull it up later.
The third one is my favorite. That's the only 2-star one. They have an actual movie star, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I know she wasn't at the time. The roller coaster stuff is iconic. I went to a theme park today.
Oh,
Every time I
Ryan,
get a roller coaster, I'm like, am I
luck
in?
of luck of the Irish, Ryan Merriman is in it as well. Don't get me twisted, bro. He was also in Smart House. He's a Disney Channel star. He was the
Uh,
boy.
but if I had to, yeah, 3, and then the rest are 1-stars. 4, 5, 1, 2.
4 better than 5.
I guess I just like the
I like
last
5
two
more.
because like four had boobs and a budget. 5 had the funny like 3D aspect to it, and at least it was over.
I like the bridge stuff in 5. I thought that was fun.
I don't remember anything. I think the fourth one had NASCAR. I don't remember.
It did.
Uh, and then the first one was weird. I don't know. Everyone vote in the comments. What's worse, Blonde or the Final Destination franchise?
Yes, give
Um,
us all of your thoughts. Give us spooky season recommendations. Actually,
yeah.
someone let me know that my friend Madison actually likes to watch Supernatural for spooky season. Personally, I like the ghost hunting episodes in that show. I think those are a blast to watch. And
Mm.
there's even a Scooby Doo episode where they animate them. I don't know if have you ever seen Supernatural really?
No, my girlfriend has though.
Jump around in there, especially the Scooby Doo episode. It's on Netflix. Watch that
Mm.
stuff, and I think you're gonna have some fun with it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just some goofy CW monster, nothing really too scary stuff.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Scooby Doo, Velma's gay, and I just can't handle it. How
I
dare they?
I love it, and I want them to do more with it. I hope they get really dark and just kind of creepy with that kind of stuff. Apparently, they weren't allowed to use Scooby Doo in it at all, which I just think is hilarious because they don't want Scooby Doo to be involved with the gays. But
There's so much Scooby Doo content. I don't care. I was not going to watch it anyways. I mean, if
I'm gonna
anything, her
watch it.
being gay makes me want to watch it.
I
You
love Scooby
know.
Doo. I'm watching anything Scooby Doo. I don't give a shit.
But yeah, that's that's all I have to say about movies today. We love gay, we love horror, and I love Blonde. But check me out, Adam Ryan 03 on platforms. Check me out on YouTube, Steve.
I am the Film Fan Reviews on YouTube. Hopefully, I get a video out soon and go check me out on all that kind of stuff. And we will see you next time, everybody.